up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, we know it's a little early, but we figured this is the closest show we got. So, might as well do something semi-romantic anyway. We can talk about if this movie's really romantic or not, but we'll get there. Next, we've got Pete. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Hello, Kate Darling and Derek Deer.
No. Anyway.
I'm not saying you're a couple.
Okay, that would be weird on so many levels. And last but certainly not least, we've got Steve. Steve, glad to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
Guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share. That way you'll never miss any of the things we got coming up, including next week. We're looking at the newest Disney release. So this week, being our Valentine's show, we figured, what is the quintessential Disney Valentine's movie? And according to a bunch of other people we talked to, it's Lady and the Tramp. Because, of course, of the famous Tony's That's Amore, Bella Notte, not That's Amore, Bella Notte, it's close enough, scene with the spaghettis and the meatball, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, Pete, I'm going to start with you on this one. What about this movie is worthy of a collar and license? What works about the show?
So to me, probably the thing I liked the best was the songs. I thought for the most part, except for maybe one, which we'll probably talk about in the other category. I thought like He's a Tramp is a cute song. Of course, Bella Notte. And then there was one other one beside the Siamese one.
Lulu, the lullaby. Yeah, Lulu.
Yeah. So I thought I really liked the music. And even the problematic one that we're gonna get to, it's still in my head. It's still in my head a classic, though maybe not as it should be, but still an earworm is a good way to describe it. And I'll say this, I think it's a nice and simple story, and the story works. So I'm going to go with those two things, and I'm going to let Steve come up with something else maybe.
I'll add to that the animation. So if I'm looking, like, I have two cats, and the animation with the cats running around causing havoc, I've seen it. So I think the playful of the cats, seeing the dogs bought into the animation. I grew up with dogs, so I think the animation is there. I found it interesting of they were doing it from the perspective of dogs, so that's why we didn't always see the humans' faces. It was always sort of that down low perspective. So I really enjoyed that. Like you said, the songs are classics. I remember, I think growing up, we had a record that played the songs, so I know my brother and I played them all the time, so I remember having that. And like you said, it was a nice, simple story.
Yeah, I would say the songs are iconic Disney songs. This was one of the first occasions of a, quote, celebrity voice that Disney really used by bringing in Peggy Lee as she was Darling, she was Peg, she was Cy and Am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was both the cats also. So she had at least those three. And I want to say there was one more voice she did, but
Wow.
she did. If it's a female singing, it's her. So, and she helped write most of the songs. So, to me, you talked about the animation, Steve. The scene of when they first get the puppy and putting the puppy to bed in the kitchen, and then it knowing exactly what it's doing to get, keep whining to get the attention. And they said, okay, just for tonight. How many new pet owners have said that? And how many new pet owners have never enforced that?
Yeah.
But that was great. Matter of fact, I think I remember seeing that was a Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston bit was the bit in the I know the bit with Cyan Am was them. So any kind of big physical humor like that. I loved some of the stereotypical, Jacques using some of the Scottish colloquialisms and the terms worked. I loved the fact that you can see the influence of this on future Disney things. The gopher is directly based off of this beaver. The gopher and Winnie the Pooh is directly based off of this beaver. Voiced by Stan Freberg, by the way, who, if you haven't heard some of his comedy albums, highly recommend them. They're if you have a sense of humor like I do, I highly recommend them. There are parts of this that work really, really well. Parts.
Mhm.
Kate, anything else that really worked for you?
You guys took most of mine, or all of mine. The animation is just so beautiful. It's so good. It's so classic. I hadn't thought about that everything that you don't really see the adults, the humans' faces because it's from a dog's perspective. I didn't think about that. I love that. I loved the use of orchestration and how the orchestration accented the jumping of the dogs, or if they would grab something in their mouth or something like that. I loved that. I liked the voice acting. I actually didn't have a big issue with this movie. I mean, other than like the problematic points that everyone should have an issue with, but I really enjoyed it. But I also like a good animal movie. So
I like a good animal movie. Now, I will say that the whole scene at the opening scene with Jim Deere giving Darling lady in a hat box is Walt Disney gave his wife a dog like that. And that's how they came up with that. That's actually Walt did that, and then they put it into this movie. So, and I know that's a story that's been told a lot, but it's just one of those neat little things. This was also the second original story that they did after Dumbo. Dumbo was original for Disney. Also came out less than a month before Disneyland opened. So it was important that this was successful, because if Disneyland had flopped and this had flopped, there goes the Disney Studios. So also one of the last ones before, oh my gosh, I blanking on the name. Animator, not William Hanna. Oh,
Barbara?
no.
One of the Disney animators?
Yes, one of the ones that came in, and you can see his input then, like through Great Mouse Detective. It's not John Lasseter. It's out to it. Let's get to this next part, and then I will look that up as we're in the background. So, Steve, what about this movie should be in the pound?
The awful stereotypes. So first, Cy and Am, but I must say, I had a part Siamese cat, so the characteristics of the cats, the speaking part's not good, but just how they're sort of mischievous and stuff, it fit. Siamese are very talkative. They have definitely a personality, so I enjoyed that. My biggest point was it was too weak of a storyline. I actually found myself sort of nodding off or losing interest. And there's really no like villain. It was like all these little sort of problems they had to get through, but no one ever stood out. I mean, those are my biggest two things. I remember seeing it as a kid, and I was like, I was bored. Like, where's the
Yeah,
action?
that's true because I know I'm skipping ahead, but I'm agreeing with what you're saying there because like you think of this movie and you think of Cy and Am as the villains, but they're in one scene like halfway through the movie and then they vanish. Like they're like when they come back to the house later, they're not there. So
Yeah.
so it's I never thought of it that way.
And then there's the rat, but the rat never talks. It's just this
The rat
sort
is
of
just
like
a
you don't follow the rules. All
it's
other animals talk, but you don't.
right, but he's not really. It's
Yeah.
more of a narrative device than a character.
Yeah.
So
And the name I was thinking of was Don Bluth. It's the last one before Don Bluth came in and started animating a lot of different stuff.
okay.
So, I'm actually going to let Kate go next on this one, just because I think one of the ones I'm going to talk about is hers, and I'm going to give her a shot at it. So, what, Kate, didn't work for you?
The storyline was a little weak. There were moments where I found myself kind of zoning out. And I tend to love a good animal movie, like the Aristocats. I'm a big fan of. Hmm. I didn't like the part where the animals are in the shelter and they're all shedding a colossally huge tear. That made me very sad. So there were just parts that I felt were not strong. The weasel or rat. I guess it was a rat. I thought it was a weasel until they were like, "It's a rat." I was like, "Ooh, that's a scary looking animal." There were parts that didn't hold my attention. I don't have a lot negative to say about this movie. It was fine. It was fine. Like, if it's on, I won't actively change the channel. But
I will.
it's not a movie that I would probably like say, "Hey, you know what we should watch tonight? Lady and the Tramp." I don't think I realized that the song Bella Noche was from this movie. Yeah, I know. I didn't realize that.
Okay, guys, do we have to revoke her plus Platoon card for that?
She's a baby.
I didn't realize
She did
it.
know. She
But
does know the song, so we'll forgive her.
yeah, I knew the song. I just didn't realize that it was from specifically this movie. And it did make Tony's restaurant in Magic Kingdom make more sense. But
oh, wow. Sorry.
I'm not helping my case. I know.
Often, but Kate, bless your heart.
I mean, I knew that this is what it was that it was from Lady and the Tramp. I just didn't. It just made everything make more sense. But I didn't hate it. Yeah, it was just kind of meh. So, Pete, what about you?
Well, I'll let Derek go if Kate didn't take his thing.
She did not take mine. There, I've got, other than the completely weak story, especially after about the first 15 minutes. Are we not going to talk about how big of a jerk the Tramp is? And the fact that, I mean, I know it's an overdone thing on Facebook, but oh my gosh, you get you get something blue around your neck and you're paired up with a jerk and you're expected to be happy. Titanic. But it's the Tramp is not a nice guy. He is not someone that she should end up with, because she only ends up with him because he feels guilty. And let's face it, he knocks her up because she had to have been pregnant before he got his license and such. Because if they're talking about how it just happened and she's got puppies, that night they had out was something nobody talks
No,
about.
she got pregnant real quick though.
It can only take once.
That
So
shit's happened so fast.
actually, dogs do get pregnant very, very fast. But anyway, also the misogyny in this, the whole weak women have to be saved by stronger men. It's the fact that Darling never has a name. And I get that they do that because maybe that's all she ever heard her be called at home is Darling. I mean, we all have names for our significant others that's not their initial name. But to never give her a name, the only thing we see her doing is having a baby.
Well,
And now I will say that is late 1800s, early 1900s.
Right.
But
I was going to say, you know, and I think we spent a lot of time watching this movie trying to figure out when it was set, when and where it was set. Like, is it America? Is it England?
I think it's America in the late 18, early 19s.
Yeah, I mean, because there were cars, but there were still horses.
But then there's posters for a production of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
It's like that too.
Yeah. I mean, some of this, and for Tony's to be such a great restaurant, for him to go in at 7:00 at night and Tony be able to come out back and serve a dog food. There's nobody in the front of the restaurant. How can it be that great? Kind of like the Tony's restaurant at Magic Kingdom. It's not that great.
So we were watching this movie, and during that entire scene, we were pretending to be customers in the restaurant, going, "Hey, where's our order?
What do you mean my meatball?
I need another glass of water. Come on."
I mean, there's
in the kitchen. They're singing to some dogs.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely has some things that did not age necessarily well at all, but it had definite story problems. As I said, after we meet the Tramp, it hits the brakes hard. Until closing credits, I almost say. But the redemption scene of Rusty is great, but
is that the Bloodhound?
Yeah. His redemption scene where he really hasn't lost his sense of smell, and then I'm sorry, the whole I told you about old reliable, didn't I? No, Uncle Rusty. Well, I didn't. He used to say, I think we all have an older relative like that who's told the same story dozens of times. Some of us are, direct descendants of those people. But to me, this story, the movie has problems. Movie's not great. Pete, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing is, the Siamese cats, if I can see arguments that it's not intentionally racist, but it's rather
the song is
rather right,
especially when you consider it's Peggy Lee.
It's Peggy Lee singing, right, yeah. So it feels like that's bad, but then it also, like, throughout the movie, there's so many stereotypes and ones that we don't think of as problematic as much as those Chinese Siamese,
like
whatever.
The Chihuahua.
But like the Chihuahua, right? You had the Chihuahua, you had the Russian dog, you had even the
Chihuahua. You've still got that today.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's
bad Mexican accent today.
I know that doesn't make it great.
No, it doesn't.
So I'm just saying it wasn't just the cats. To me, it was kind of, even like some of it wasn't offensive, like the Scotty dog, but I could even see, like, Italian people going, oh yeah, okay, Italians, we're all restaurant owners and we talk like this, so I can see, there
And
was a
serve
lot.
spaghetti and meatballs when spaghetti and meatballs wasn't a thing at the time.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I think there was a lot of stereotyping in
Yes.
this movie.
I would agree.
Even if it's not necessarily racism, it's very stereotypical, and it didn't wear well on the movie, in my opinion. But yeah, I would agree with what everybody else is saying. My main thing is there isn't much story to this movie. There isn't even much of a, as you say, Tramp doesn't really change until all of a sudden he decides he saves Lady and the baby, and then all of a sudden he wants to be a part of a household, but it was a very, there's no, like, I think it could have been written better that
There's no progression. It's
right.
instantaneous.
It's just like boom. And I think it could have been a more interesting story had they, had he started out as, oh, I just like to be free and all these things, and then he sees what Lady has and starts to want that and changes, and there was not that moment, and I thought that was a miss. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. All right. So the Bella Notte scene of Lady and the Tramp with the meatballs and the kiss with the spaghetti scene has been viewed by some as the most romantic Disney scene ever. Kate, I'll let you start on this go around. What is, and on this, I'm going to go Disney and Pixar.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes of Up. When the first 15 minutes of Up and the story behind Ellie and Carl Fredricksen. That's, I mean, it ends horrifically sad, but that is,
well, not horrifically sad. It ends
sad,
as most stories eventually end.
Oh, it's so sad.
But heartbreaking.
But just their journey and their story, the first 15 minutes of Up, by far one of the greatest love story moments in a Disney movie. That's me. What about you, Pete?
I thought of a few, but I really like the whole New World scene from Aladdin, Aladdin and Jasmine. Again, one of the one of the things I thought about with a lot of these is, like, a lot of these romantic scenes are based on a lie, and this one is also based on a lie. But, like, she figures out pretty quickly that he's the same guy that she met in the marketplace. Then he tells another lie, but I still think, like, the way that scene works, that she goes from, like, I'm not going to trust this guy, to realizing that he's, I mean, at the end of it, we realize that she knew he was the same person in the marketplace. Then they have this magical journey and they end up watching the fireworks and everything. I think that's a very romantic scene. So that's my pick. What about you, Steve?
Well, Kate took mine. The opening of Up would have been my number one. The other one comes to mind is probably the ballroom scene in Beauty and the Beast. Just the epic, sort of that big waltzing moment. But Up was the first one that come up there. Derek, what would you say?
See, for me, if we're going to go Beauty and the Beast, I'm going to go a little bit earlier, before the ballroom scene. I'm going to go. No. I'll stay. If we're going to stick in Beauty and the Beast, okay. What, Snow White dancing with Dopey? What? No. But I'm going to go when, just after Something There, where he gives her the library and then she starts to read to him. To me, him knowing her and what makes her tick, and then her wanting to share that with him, is one of those. It's not the big gesture romantic, but those little things are the kind of thing that make you fall in love with someone. So to me, if we're gonna go quote romantic, I'm sorry. I want my own freaking plate of food. But and trust me, I'm not sharing my pasta. But and can we talk about ladies' breakfast not exactly being sanctioned by veterinarians of America, the donuts and coffee? But to me, that is one of my choices. I don't want to give my other choice because my other choice will kind of give away the next set potentially. But to me, I was like watching the little things that they do. It's in Wall-E. It's not a great big huge thing that she does. It's just she starts to like him because of the little things that he does that grows on him. And that's, to me, I prefer the gently growing type of love versus the thunderbolt type of love, for lack of a better term. So I don't know. That's just me.
Well, I thought Kate was going to bring up this one, and to me, it was kind of my runner-up. Flynn and Rapunzel when they're on the boat, because I think that he as a character, like we talk about, like very early on, he's like Tramp, right? It's like running free, stealing, whatever. And
He actually changes, though.
He actually changes through the story and through her and her naivete or whatever like that. So you can see that progression of him falling in love with her. And so I think that scene is and the same thing, her seeing him change and everything. So I think that is also a good romantic scene.
It is. I would agree with that. That's one that came to mind for me.
I wouldn't put the two of them in the second category we're going to talk about, but
the only other one that really came to mind for me was Can You Feel the Love Tonight in The Lion King. I know it's not like a love, but just the way that they reconnect. I just always loved that scene.
And see,
I love that song.
I like the 2 minutes right before it where they're actually having the conversation. They rekindle their friendship.
Yeah.
That then morphs. So
I can see what's happening. What?
Yeah. Or our pal is doomed. But now, so we've talked about the most romantic scene in a Disney movie. Who is the best Disney couple? And this can be Disney, Pixar. Who is the best Disney couple? Kate, I'll start with you. And are you still going to stick with Carl and Ellie?
No. This one, I don't know if they're the best, but I know they're one of my favorites. And that's Helen and Bob Parr from The Incredibles. I love their family dynamics. I love that movie in general. When I was thinking about, okay, who's my favorite couple? Helen and Bob Parr. Just they're funny, they're loving.
Qualify that in Incredibles 1? Because in Incredibles 2, I don't think they're as good of a couple.
I'll agree with that. But yeah, I mean, Ellie and Carl are so good, but I think Helen and Bob take it for me. What about you, Pete?
Well, Derek mentioned the one I was thinking of, which was Wall-E and Eve. Just because I really think for a love story about two robots, they do a really wonderful job telling that story. But you got to give a little bit for Woody and Buzz, though. Come on.
That's fair.
Those two guys. I mean, it might be a bromance, but it's, they definitely love each other.
Well, I'm going with Carl and Ellie. I mean, for the short moment that we see them together, and for me, just how their differences mesh together. Because I look at my other half, where we're sort of opposites of each other, and just how we're able to mesh together and sort of make those connections. So for me, it's Carl and Ellie.
Yeah.
And from the peanut gallery, in our producer Gina is going Jesse and Buzz in Spanish mode. But for me, I kind of had the first one I thought of was Kate, Helen, and Bob Parr, because theirs was the most romantic scene to me. Is the whole I'm not strong enough to lose. I can't lose you again. And if we
Right.
work together on this, you don't have to. That was probably one of my most romantic moments of how deeply he needs her and how she needs him just as much.
Yeah.
And to me, it's probably one of the most realistic kisses in any Disney movie, other than Thumper and Feline, or Thumper and whatever the girl bunny name is. Why can't I not remember her name?
Yeah, Feline is the deer, right?
Feline's the deer.
Is it Claudette or something?
Yes, it is. It is Claudette. Okay. So anyway,
Score.
yes, score one for Steve. The other one for me is actually, I can't believe I'm saying this. In the new Mickey Mouse cartoons that have come out, I love the relationship between Donald and Daisy and the fact that she accepts him for who he is and accepts his temper, because it's never, his temper is never directed at her. And even in the old ones, when he gets mad, it's not really at her. And the fact that he is so flawed, but she loves him anyway, to me is one of those where there has to be some of that, because no relationship is perfect. And everyone has flaws. I mean, of course, except for our spouses, but
not mine.
Everyone has flaws, and how she just totally accepts his flaw. I have always loved that little bit, but for me, it's probably Bob and Helen Parr. So
yeah, and that brings a good point. It's hard for us not to mention Mickey and Minnie, because they have had a lot of romantic moments throughout history.
And they've had a lot of not that romantic. What Mickey apparently thought was romantic that was not really romantic.
I will say, Mickey Mouse in Dream Along with Mickey Dream Along with Mickey, when he said, "Gosh, Minnie, you've always been a princess to me."
I know. I was thinking Dream Along with Mickey too. Yeah.
Or when he grabs her and playing crazy and kisses her even though she doesn't want to be.
No.
Oh, that was 1930.
I not acknowledge that Mickey Mouse.
1929. So
why? It's the one we could have. That's the Mickey Mouse we could have on this show. Okay. As we always do, whenever we review a movie, we review it in terms of cups of pixie dust out of 5. And as she always does, Kate, what's your rating?
I'm going to give it a 2.5. I was going to give it a 3. But the rewatchability, I just don't really think is there. But I love animal movies. So, but like, if it was between this and the Aristocats, I'm going to watch the Aristocats. If it was between this and Robin Hood, I'm going to watch Robin Hood. If it was between this and the Rescuers, I'm going to watch the Rescuers. Like, it's just.
What about 101 Dalmatians?
I would rather
watch 101 Dalmatians.
The only exception to this is I would never choose Fox and the Hound. Ever. I'd never put myself through that. But I would choose just about every movie over Oliver and Company. Let's go. Like, I would just choose every other movie over this one. So
Oliver and Company is not good.
That's fine. It may not be good, but I would probably watch it over this.
Yeah, I could see that.
I would watch the song, Why Should I Worry section, and that's it from Oliver and Company.
If this is torture, chain me to the wall.
Okay, Pete.
Yeah, racially insensitive Chihuahua. What do you know?
Yeah, it's fine.
But
at least that was voiced by a Hispanic guy.
Right,
so.
Yeah. No, I see. I'm a little lower than Kate. I'm between a 2 and a 2.5, and I think what Kate just showed me is this is a 2. It's really not one I would go back and watch again. I remember as a kid seeing the one scene all the time, but never seeing the movie, and that's really the thing with it, is it's the one scene is a classic moment in Disney animation. The movie does not hold up that great, so I'm gonna give it a 2. I don't know that I would watch this again until I have grandkids, and even then.
So many others to show them.
Yeah.
I'm like Pete. I'm between a 2 and a 2.5. Derek. What did I give Sword in the Stone?
You gave Sword in the Stone a 2.
Oh, I had to go with a 2 then, because I think I'd rather watch Sword in the Stone, even though it had no plot, more than I'd like Kate. I'd watch Sword and Stone over before I'd watch this again. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
I'd actually watch this over Sword in the Stone.
Oh, see, I'd watch Sword in the Stone over this. I think Sword in the Stone is funnier, has funnier moments. To me, this is a 2. I mean, it's not bad enough for me to give a 1.5, but if I never watch this again, that's fine. I mean,
I'll listen to the songs. That's the strongest.
If you want an
the strongest
earworm,
part of the
I will
movie.
listen to the songs.
Yeah.
So, and for the record, the last time we gave a movie close to this low was Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Yeah.
Was a straight 2. So, this is this is about Disenchanted. This is Lightyear. This is not a good movie for us basically across the board. So, okay. Now I have to go back for just a minute as far as Disney couple. If you're going live action, I know you guys hated the movie. I know you guys hated it. But father and mother, the two adult parents from Swiss Family Robinson, how they work together and how they obviously truly love each other and completely respect, like it's an equal marriage. I've always enjoyed. That being said, it's still Bob and Helen Parr, but there's some good relationships in live action movies as well for Disney. So, and we just lost Pete apparently, and that was not me. That was not me. You guys can see Gina can acknowledge that was not me that dropped Pete. So,
I saw your hands, Derek. They were up.
Gina did put in the chat Jesse and Buzz in Spanish mode, which
And
is also a great couple.
Wasn't paying attention about 5 minutes ago when I said that. So,
sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Kate, what have we got for Disney Plus news?
Ooh, let me tell you what we've got for Disney Plus news. First of all, Disney Plus in Europe is losing many of the older movies that were originally said to be the backbone of the service.
Yeah.
Following along kind of with that, Disney Plus users also received an email explaining that the service will begin issuing consequences for sharing of accounts beyond your immediate household effective March 1st.
Yeah, the whole dropping old movies makes, unless there's some kind of copyright issue in like European Union or something like that, it makes no sense to remove these from Disney Plus, because that's not costing Disney any extra money. I mean, what? How much can a server truly cost? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And let's face it, in a couple weeks, that's where we're going because there's nothing new coming out. So, but yeah, the immediate household we knew has been coming for a while. I got the official email. It's going to be interesting to see what these consequences are. I'm hoping it's just they make you they drop that's they basically give you a chance. Okay, it's got to be something based upon like IP addresses as far as where people are logging in. For that, I know I don't have Netflix, so I'm not sure how theirs works, but they've done something similar.
Here's what's hard though, is I travel for my job. So I log into different things all over the country all the time.
But you're not always in a completely different place all the time. You're not always in New York City all the time.
Oh, well.
To me, the hopping around, I think they will take into account.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay. Well,
All right.
next week, for worse or worse, we are going to be watching The Marvels. Steve, have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
I think Pete might have, but I don't think I know none of the rest of us has. I don't even think Pete's seen it.
Okay.
So the initial reviews and box office performance were, shall we say, not great. But it's the latest Marvel thing out. It's coming out this week, so it's on our list for next week. However, we are going to have some definite openings come March and April. Those are fairly open. And guys, we need suggestions. I can keep picking movies. We can keep picking movies, but you got to let us know what you want to see. Please email platoon@gmail.com. I would love to have some kind of a diamond in the rough or something where it's this hidden thing on Disney Plus that we don't really know about that you want us to watch. So
I like it.
Yeah, please email us. Let me know. Facebook message, tweet at us, carrier pigeon. I don't care. But we have new episodes coming out every Thursday on YouTube and all the major podcasting services. For Kate, Steve, Pete in absentia, and Gina, we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcasts and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.